Hey guys, today I wasn't going to do a video, but I feel that in life, what impedes what impedes you from stepping um, into the capacity, that authenticity, is that we think that it needs modification, subjective to our finite senses of awareness and selves. Um, and the modification seems to limit it when the modification doesn't exist. And we always think that there's some kind of we're always in a reflex, um, always in a reflex reactive state of um, that it needs a prelude phase. Always something always needs a prelude in order to be initiated. When you are actually the initiated, that's also dependent on the layers that have um, that's also dependent on them layers that have been gradually instilled over years. I've just got a really nice view and I keep getting distracted, but not in a negative way. See, these videos are an additional thing. That what I'm staring at nature is just the being of it. And because because we're not in coherency with that fluidity, hence why the videos, because we have deviated so far away from what is, that there's many YouTube channels and people talking about relative things towards illusion and why we fell so far into it. Anyways, I wasn't going to do a video because I'm ill and really tired, not slept much. The reason for the shades. And I just feel that if I wasn't to do a video, then that reflexed reactive state that gets triggered through self-induced limitation, that could then habitualize and proliferate that habit into other endeavors. All endeavors is one endeavor. It's all you, and it's now. There is no journey. There is no. It's. I'm sorry. I don't want to knock you off your horse, but there's not a journey. There is no journey. You're not going anywhere. The perennial essence of it, which is the infinite stream, is now. It's nowhere other than where you've ever been. So that's a lesson for most people. If I would have made today's video because of the effect of how I feel, what would that have done in other areas? Impediment, inducement, and it's all self-done. Now I'm making the video, it's happening. The happening is the being of what it is. It is the initiated in every moment, every second, every parallel reality from hand movement to hand movement is the initiated, always. So today's topic, after a monotonous introduction, but necessary, is psychedelics and my experience with psychedelics. The main emphasis on this psychedelic talk is based upon entering these things prematurely, because we all do that. Everyone, the majority of people I know, I'm not saying everybody, I'm speaking relative to the people I know within a sub-circle of an area that I'm in, of a certain people. And I haven't, I'm not saying everybody, I'm saying within the proximity of what I know. So don't take that too literal. So by what I've seen, there was the psychedelic approach was based upon a premature kind of wanting to masquerade senses of self that are fractured. So it was a repressive mechanism, not to be liberated, because these drugs can be used. They're not drugs. These tools, they're tools, can be utilized to reacclimate to your vibration of the actuality of what you are. They don't, I mean, but the reason they become detriment is because they're opening things within you. They're dilating certain dimensionalities that where there's no familiarity with them dimensionalities. So you haven't had time to acclimate to them dimensionalities in a natural way, so maturely. So these things can, when you say, for example, you have a trip, you're not going anywhere. There's no endeavor somewhere aloof from where you are. Everything's a metaphysical construct condensed into this reality. Meta means within. Meta, physical. You don't just have the adorned surface of things which we've been enticed by the ego through what we see. You have the inner that makes the outer to be in this, as they call, the projected simulation of somewhere higher. So when you take these psychedelics, they are delayering all these effects which have affected us. So they are delayering that. And sometimes all too much at once. So the psychedelic endeavors for me, I handled it quite well, because I went through a process of a lot of crushing, a lot of refining, becoming crystallizing. So yeah, metaphysical reversion. And instead of all the attributes, the false attributes to what this reality is, other than what you are doing. So I went through, again, like a preliminary phase, but the preliminary phase was just an illusion, because it was always there. It was actually a reversion, a delayering, not going anywhere or achieving anything. You don't gain anything, and this is the tantalizing trap of this reality, is that you are gaining something. You are a generative being, so the sufficient capacity to generate implies your very being. It's not something that you go out to get. It's something you reflect. So then, relating it to the psychedelics, is that the psychedelics show you this, like, they inundate it, all of this, inclusive to what I've just spoken about, all at once, and the mind trips. It's like a circuit board, and it's too much of a surge of power has gone in one area, and it's tripped. So it's severed the link. But you're not actually dying. All it does is, as Terence McKenna says, it perturbs the mind, so it induces and anxiety, um, because the mind can no longer hold on. Because the mind works on, the head works on contractually holding to things, so it becomes very secluded in its finite ability of what is, and that circuit board is binary. So it's a binary oscillation, and it's frictional, and friction creates a sense of external objection. So that meaning that you are a deterrent for the things that are actually inclusive to you. So everyone's stuck in that binary trap. Well, the drugs immediately converge all of that. Well, they try to, but we resist, because we're used to the binary state, the finite state we're all a reductive effect of. And I've seen this, it's been empirical to my experience, to me, this abattoir in which God's experiencing itself as you are too. That what I've seen is this, when I've gone and taken these things with these people. Very unsettling, because we're empathetic beings, so it didn't affect me directly, but what I saw, because we operate through people vicariously, that's what we've been, instead of going inward and going to the source, and which is the emission of the whole reality from the divine. Many words for the same thing. And I've seen this directly, and it's not nice to see. It's not nice to witness, because you can't help them, because they're not receptive to anything you can give, because the reason they're taking the drug is to repress anyway. So when you try to explain what's happening, it's even more of a repellent, because we're already trying to repress, or in a repellent state of mind to what the actuality of what is. And I'm not judging this, I'm just stating an observation. And it's almost like the truth scares them, and it scares the ego. The ego was so used to consolidating a sense of validity based on objections and attainment, that when realizes there's nothing to actually grasp, you feel like you're falling, and that fall is scary, but you're not going anywhere. You've always just been doing that. And the psychedelics taught me that. I've been through scary situations with these psychedelics where I'm like, wow, what is this? What is this? And I've been surfing this wave that I thought, your mind thinks, the mind thinks that if I don't surf this wave, the ego, it makes the ego to think that it's going to die, like there's imminent death if you don't surf this wave. But you are the wave too. The surfer implies the wave, vice versa. It's a smooth oscillation, and it makes you to be that. And it's almost like it's inviting you to be that, but we don't want to walk through the door. And you are the door for him. There is no door, by the way. So these drugs create this effect, and they can be very dangerous, because people in their erratic states of this binary effect that we've self-induced in us, ego derivative, that edifice holds no water. There is no, it doesn't exist. It's a false design. It's almost like it's contrived into existence, and we've all consolidated a senses of self on the basis of this this thing that doesn't exist. And once that claw is being released, there was no claw to be in anything. Do you get my point? This is when we need to release to it, and it's very difficult because we're making it to be difficult. There's no difficulty in it. There's no conundrum that you need to decode. And we seem to do this to ourselves. There must be a conundrum. There must be a problem. But a problem implies something soluble, and a solution means there's a problem. And if there is no problem, there were never that either. It negates the whole process. It was always the solutioned, the isness. And people are scared of riding that wave of the isness. I know isness is maybe not a word, but most words aren't words anyway. They don't exist. They're actually a diffraction, a defractalized effect of the binary of the mind. Which is to try to figure. And a figure implies something else to come after. So it successes itself into another figure which never ends. And our mind does this. It creates these diffracted fractures, if you will, and it's trying to hang on to each fracture, and it's trying to grasp another, but another one always leads to another. So there's never any center. And it's the illusion of lineage as well, the effect of something called lineage. There is no lineage, because that means it's on a course somewhere, and we think we're traveling somewhere, and all these things are a symptomatic effect of what the mind's done. And it was always here. It was actually spiraling and then back through. And the heart's doing that. The heart's call it a centripetal essence. It weaves out and it works on a curvature. And the infinity relapses back through itself again, all through different wave phases of like sub-realities. A reality is a circle within a circle of an expression of a dimensionality and a density. Dimension is a density. Earth one is suggestive, which I've said in other videos, suggestive polarized. So the brain, the hemisphere structure of the brain is right, left. Well, these are imbalanced, and they're not working in a symbiotic manner to nourish one as the other. So what it does is that diffracted sense of vibration will reverberate back itself as a reality outside of you. When it's false, it's suggesting that it's that, and it's a falsity. But we can converge this, but it is the converged. And then the two hemispheres work in the congruent flow in which they should, in what was the origin of how it should have been, and the isness of it. And then they're just seen as a variable expression which is supposed to have infused with itself. And then there is no binary anymore, this or that, other, outside, objective. It's not fractured into that anymore, and it all just comes into its center. And this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is the aim. And the psychedelic drugs, what they'll do is they'll put a torch on that and they'll illuminate that that's not an actuality. And your life's been a lie. Your life's been a construct, a con, in the form of a structure. And once you realize that, it's hard to accept. It's hard to assimilate because then you think, oh my God, this is something. Your mind reflexes it as an idea that it needs to assimilate and digest. No, it was to just be. And I think that why we take the drugs initially is because of a nostalgic feeling to that symbiosis, the symbiotic effect, which means work in a state of congruent flow. Gives to receives. It is the received, it is the gift. And we take them initially for that, but then when we're given the whole show and it's illuminated in our minds that it is just a show, and you had your verification wasn't based on what you did, and everything that was suggested to us to be coerced into the groove of wasn't our groove. And it can really, what's the word for it, discombobulate, I don't know, it can really just distort the whole process. And this effect of that distortion is what can create a state of neurosis, a neurotic state, and also just general states of imbalance, because there's no stability in that. In that state that can induce, there's no stability anymore. In terms of you being this thing that you thought you was holding on to, this thing that was solidified as you became other than what it all was doing. And then sometimes when you take the psychedelics, all this has to find its origin again. And I think this is why I think that I personally think that this is why people have committed suicide, like literally, not ego death. Not ego is in a sense of self that's artificialized on the basis of what we think is the scene, which is the illusion. So I'm talking about that death. I mean, you can have that death too, taking psychedelics, where there's nothing for you to actually be. There's nothing for you to actually do. And then that feeling of what you get becomes then what you do. And the universe gives itself from what it generates from itself. So what it gives, it gets back, from which it then knows itself to be. And they call that omniscience. And it's everything that's just found its center again. And that omniscience, which is all-knowing, is what encompasses all things. It envelops the whole essence of that, and then that feeds itself from that, instead of you doing all these rigid routines. A route is a route, isn't it? Like a route. It's like you've having a route given to you, instead of the innate metaphysical route, which is the organic essence of what you are, creating and reverberating its own roots, your ancestral genealogy, your origin from the divine, that's played itself through and played itself out to be within. So that's been substituted for that route. And again, keeping on tangent, the psychedelics show you this route, and because it's so inundating and overwhelming all at once, it's a big resistance process. And again, like I've said in many other videos and talks, the friction it creates is a fiery element, and fire it destroys, not constructive. So constructive in a manner that's not a con, but your construct. So that's what it does, and it rubs the resistance from what is, rubs, and you're like, oh my god, and you start going off, and it's like a fear. Our natural state of our origin has become a fear to be, and then you're completely lost. And that's all it is. We are reductive beings in this plane. And once it redilates that essence, which needs to be like a river, that conduit, we're trying to swim up the river instead of going with it. And we need to accept things in us. Like some things, and I know some YouTubers say this, some things are hereditary, maybe, or inherited from ancestral genealogy, lineage, and some things aren't actually, they're not working for us from that inheritance, but it was all part of it. So you have to work through these things, all these habitualized patterns, because they come through the bio influence of the genetic process, succession. They come through that to you too. You take them on, you embody that, and you have to work that. It might be a sexual addiction, it might be not being able to be in a state of sobriety, all kinds of things like this. You have to work through that, and it helps your ancestors, so you can become the key to the succession, to unlock the conduit and clean it, like the debt that's built. But it shouldn't be a detriment to you. It's a part of the game, because it's forgot what it is. And you're taking on all that baggage from what's been forgotten and opening it and unlocking it through you. But don't do it in the psychedelic way. That's just my advice. It's very distorted, and it kind of, it retards the whole process. It's not natural, because we jump into it prematurely before we've found ourselves, the true self. And the psychedelic experience unlocks too much at once, and you could actually damage yourself, because then what you've gained from it, the mind, through its reflex, it tries to rationalize it and work itself out. It's completely transcendent to rationalization and logic, and it can actually not alleviate anything. It can actually create more of what was prior, before you had taken the thing itself. So I wouldn't condone, or I'd be an advocate of taking these things because of this effect. It's like trying to ride a plane with no instruction. So you're on the plane, you have all these coordinates, these physical coordinates, and you don't know what works what, right? Because you've not had a preliminary phase to show you what is, to know how to navigate and go with the coordinates in accordance to which maneuvers what and how to land or even take off. So if you do this, that can be like your psychedelic trip. You don't know what's what or what's being exposed. So, but when you do, it can be fun. It can actually be very fun. It can actually be like an adventure kind of experience. But again, it is like a dream state, and so some of it will all the things. If you go into it prematurely, it will only mirror the things that are being put in you and exacerbate that sense of that. So, say for example, in a dream, if you couldn't see, you couldn't have eyes to see, you wouldn't have a dream. Would you have a dream? Would you have a nightmare? So it's very similar. It can exacerbate the things that you rigidly perceive as life to be, but it's just like a dream. Um, and all this experience, doing all these things was always supposed to re-recognize that you are the focalized, concentrated point of what the whole and everyone else is doing too, and own that, but not egoically. Own it through your heart. Right, that's it for now. This video is now expired.